It looks like that fall may have actually fallen here in southeastern Oklahoma. It feels more like what they would call football weather. And I don't know what football weather is for you, but it's not always 90 degrees and 115 degrees field temperature. Now, it is that way in August around here, but you know what? It's the middle of October. We need to have some cool weather around here. I'm excited about tonight. There is a lot to talk about on college football this week here on Midwest Sportsnet. Thank you for joining. And, I said there's so much to talk about, but I'm not going to go any further along until I invite a friend on to get to visit with me just a little bit. And we have Cory Thorpe from NAIAFBALL stopping by the channel tonight. Cory, big time Cory Thorpe, as a matter of fact. Are you feeling big time tonight?
It is what it is. I don't always feel big time, but, always on your channel.
Well, you're big time right here, so we appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us tonight. All right. 2/3 of the way through the season, Cory, let's talk some NAIA football here, and there is a lot to talk about. We could probably spend 3 or 4 hours here, but you have, family, and so I'll take just a little bit of your time here. Big story from the year. I would say one of the big stories from the year so far would be Montana Tech. Montana Tech, how about those Diggers from Butte? 7-0 right now, and they just continue to roll through the season, and really no signs of stopping. Best start in program history. They're playing some football there in Butte.
They really are. I've been very impressed, obviously. Hinchman has not let us forget what has transpired in Butte, but they are doing a fantastic job. We got to wait and see, though. There's still time for the Frontier Chaos to counteract Montana Tech. But if you're able to get in, you've got Mayville, Rocky, Dickey, and Valley left on your schedule. You've got a good chance to go into the playoffs with a and O on your schedule. Another one that I'll point out is Friends, and I don't know if there's anyone at this point that's able to stop that Friends offense other than them fumbling the ball on the ground.
That has been a big problem in previous years, and it looks like, Cory, that Coach Harrison and the Falcons may be wrapping it up just a little bit better. And as long as they do that, I agree with you. I think that they would be tough to stop. Now, I'm not willing to give the and O to Montana Tech yet, just because there are too many folks in my chat that say it's a great day to be a Comet. And it's going to be a Mayville State Montana Tech game this weekend. So we'll talk about that here on the channel here in just a moment. But you're exactly right. I mean, the season falls favorably. Big game for Friends this weekend, too, against Southwestern there in Winfield. Back-to-back trips to Winfield for Friends. That's interesting there. All right. We talk about big stories, but, there's some teams, Cory, that have stepped it up as the season has progressed. Teams that may not have started the way that, you, me, or anybody else would have started or thought they'd have started. Baker, for one, 0-3. And then Northwestern had challenges, and yet both of them right now are looking very good.
They really are. Baker had a young team coming together at the right time. I mentioned to one of our guys, the way that they played against Mid-American Nazarene is honestly the way that I expected them to play all season. It's coming together for them. Northwestern still, I have questions on offense. I was still only a 14-13 win over Morningside, and I still have lots of questions about their offense. The one I'll point out, got off to a terrible 0-2 start, is ripped off 5 straight. That's St. Xavier. We haven't talked about St. Xavier in a good 2.5 years, but we'll see if they can get it done. They've got a real big one this weekend against St. Francis of Indiana.
I agree with you, and I was looking at that matchup this week and trying to consider how to approach that, and you're right, it's just been a while since St. Xavier has, well, I'm not going to say warranted the conversation, but, to an extent, there have been some other stories that have been bigger. And before I go too much farther, I want to give a shout-out to Robert in the chat tonight. Robert, go Bulldogs. Big weekend there, big game ahead there. Dave, Jeff, Cory just said that only a 14-13 win over Morningside. I know you guys are still smarting from a 1-point loss. Any loss is a rough one for the Mustangs. So we'll see how they turn it around this week if they can. And hopefully for those who are saying roll Stangs, that's exactly what they do. And Matt, who is a Comets fan. Coming off a Tech bye week, Comets are going to have a tough hill to climb this weekend. That's exactly right. We'll mention them as well later on in the program. We're here with Cory Thorpe from NAIAFBALL, of NAIAFBALL fame, I might add, who has graciously stopping by Midwest Sports Net. Cory, if you were to look and say, okay, we're not talking National Player of the Year just yet, although later on the program, we'll start looking at some national concepts, but Conference Player of the Year. If you said, hey, these are some players that, man, they're making some noise and should get and warrant attention from their conference for that player of your spot, who would you throw out there?
You got to look at Destin Loring is one of them receiving, as well as Trey Bass from Campbellsville. Those two rushing the football have been fantastic for their teams. The guy from Lindsey Wilson has also been very, very good. Lindsey Wilson's just been really good offensively all year.
You can talk about either Tate Rice, the former backup quarterback who has shouldered the load, or you can talk about Tay Saunders too. So one of those Saunders?
Saunders.
Yeah, he's had quite a season. Both of them have for Lindsey Wilson. The Blue Raiders just absolutely it was a. I'm not going to say it was a shock. It was just it was a tough game against Campbellsville. And Cory, I heard the word upset thrown around when Lindsey Wilson lost that game. I don't know that I don't see how you can say it's an upset. Campbellsville's undefeated. They're still
it's a technical upset.
Okay.
And you look, Campbellsville was ranked lower.
Okay.
I have this fight every year with some team that says, "Oh, we thought we were the favorite." Well, you can think all you want, but the number next to your name means something. And the numbers next to Campbellsville's name, both in our poll and in the coaches' poll, said that Campbellsville was not as good as Lindsey. Whether that is the way that it turned out, no, it's not. Campbellsville won, and guess what? They flipped them.
They absolutely, and they did. That's exactly right too. They flipped those numbers. Well, no, those weren't shots at you, Cory. So, you looked like you got the shield up there really quickly. Have you been collecting darts this week or?
Man, it happens every year with some squad. I make an upset comment and I get taken by storm on the Twitter feed. It's just. Look, I love how passionate NAI fans are. It's fantastic. I love it.
It is really cool. And we have some great fans in the community here on Midwest Sports Net. Shout out to Jason, who says, "Go Baker." They've been looking really good, and you're exactly right. They have been looking good. So shout out to Baker and what the Wildcats have done. I had a chance, I think I mentioned at the start of the season, coming back from Olathe, stopped by in Baldwin City and had a chance to actually get to shake Coach Regalato's hand and meet him face-to-face for the first time. What a privilege. The man is a gentleman, and I tell you what, every time, Cory, I get to visit with him, it is absolutely worth it and more just to hear him speak and to hear him speak about the program. So fantastic there. If you look then at the season now, again, 2/3 of the way through, my lights either aren't happy to be here or what, I don't know. Anyway, 2/3 of the way through the season, are there teams that you still have questions about?
Well, there's fewer than there were, because coming into last week, I had questions about Marion and Kaiser, and both of those teams very much put those to bed. A couple of the teams that I have some questions about, but they're getting answered week by week is Dort. Dort has not played Morningside yet, and they a 1-point win over Northwestern. They'll play Midland this week. That's going to be a good matchup. Ottawa of Arizona. I don't think that I'm going to know much of anything about Ottawa until they play Tex West. The ongoing discussion right now in our Discord is whether if Tex West wins that game, if Ottawa still gets into the playoffs with one loss.
It's a really good question, and the answer in the past has been varied. I mean, we've seen it both ways. We've seen Ottawa not make it with a loss, and we've seen Ottawa last season make it with a loss. And I think that one's just so far up for grabs, and it's because the relative strength of schedule. And look, I'm right here in the heart of Sooner Athletic Conference overall, not just football, although football goes far and wide, but I mean in the middle of the Sooner Athletic Conference with basketball, volleyball, and I'm right here. Love the Sooner Athletic Conference. Strength of schedule has been a little bit of a question mark when it comes to football, not because of the upper tier, but because of the lower tier there. And I think it's been a challenge for the committee to say, hey, you should have 2 teams in. So whether or not that's a question for this year, I don't know. I would ask you, what else would you add to this season? Just your take on the year as a whole, and then before we let you go, we're gonna throw out one of our Bet the Barn problems really quickly for the community. But what would you add to the season?
Well, what would I add to the season?
Add about the season. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Come again.
Add about the season. I just wanted to get your
add about the season. It's been really interesting. I keep saying off air with Matt, I don't think I've ever been this late in a season and still feel like I know so little. With more divisions than ever, you have fewer divisional games, and so you're packing those into the back portion of your schedule. And so we're 2/3 of the way through the season, and there are some conferences out there that have only played 1 or 2 divisional games, and I'm sitting there going, I don't feel like I've got a lock on bracketology wise who's going to win the division yet. It's also been really strange this season, and I think our poll really reflects it. The media poll really reflects it. This weird striation at 24. And there's been this weird revolving door at 25 that so Georgetown, let's see.
We've got 21 through 25 up right now, Cory.
That is I think that's last week's.
Okay.
So at 21, so at 20 we've got William Penn with 52 points. 21 Evangel with 38 points. 22 Southeastern with 34 points. 23 Concordia with 33, 24 Montana Western with 29, and 25 Texas Wesleyan with 6. That's a stark change from 29 to 6. It's like there's this very harsh line of determination of there are 24 teams out here that we actually believe are good, and then there's a dozen others that we think could juggle for that 25th spot.
Well, forgive me for dated information there, Cory.
Nah, you're good.
Ready to go for you, but we'll have to check with whoever does graphics around here.
Shame.
We don't have to look that far. Okay, let's. But you're exactly right. I mean, it is kind of a drop off there, and I think that is what everyone feels at this point, at least from the media perspective there. And I think the media has a pretty good handle on this poll. I have been pleased with the way that the rankings have looked from the NAIAFBALL media poll there. All right, Cory, we have a segment here before I let you go where we talk about Bet the Barn. And Vegas doesn't have lines on the NAIA. And by the way, just before I say anything else, nothing here on Midwest Sportsnet is involved in betting in the NBA or underground poker games or anything else. Just so you know, we are betting a fictitious barn. There actually is a real barn, Cory. It's out there. It's our carriage house. Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet doesn't want me to bet that. But if we were to bet a barn, we have some lines here, and we talk about these their lines, but never favorites in a game. They're always prop bets or totals. So I'll drop one really quickly, and it'll give some of our guys in the chat an opportunity to get ready for this one, because this one, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, is a barn burner, folks, because this is going to be the highest we've ever gone on a point total, I believe, because we have the 2 highest scoring teams in the NAIA playing each other this week, and that would be Friends and Southwestern. Both teams scoring more than 50 points a game. The only 2 teams in the NAIA that have crossed that, or that are at that 50-point a game mark here in 2025. Now, lots of other teams have done it in the past, but this year, right now. So they're going to be facing off in Winfield, Kansas on Saturday. And I hope the weather's good enough. I think the weather's going to be sending on through and maybe hitting Arkansas and, disrupting Arkansas and Auburn. We'll let them do that. That's D1 stuff. But, Cory, the over-under on this one, we're putting officially on Midwest Sports Net, we're putting the over-under on this game at 79.5. Now, that's the highest one we've given all year long. And basically, I want to see if there's any action on this because every now and again, our lines have been pretty close, Cory. They really have. But every now and again, we'll throw one out here, and it just doesn't get the action on both sides. I want to see if there's any action on both sides. So, guys, save your picks until the Bet the Barn segment, but we want to get Cory on record. Over-under. Does the defense step in here, or is it just too much friends and too much, of that Jamie Odom passing game that we wind up with 120 scored?
I'm going to take the over here and just kind of playing it in my head. Even if the final score is like 52-34 or some, that's not unreasonable. Southwestern can easily do that. Friends can obviously do that. The only question is if Friends decides if they get a big enough lead, are they going to decide to take Tom Brady the football a little bit and let the air out of it, and take one of those 13-minute marches, Army style, down the field and just really end the game for them. But yeah, based on what these two teams can do, I think I'm going to take the over.
I think they'd have to be up by 28 to do that, and I don't know if that's going to be the case on Saturday. So I can see them just continuing to try to put points on the board. And again, you're saying if Friends is up, if Southwestern's up, because this is the famous walk-off field goal block from last year. So if Southwestern's up by a touchdown, that's not enough. They're going to want to be up by 2, 3, 4, 6, you name it. So I think there could be a lot here, but I'm going to see if there's any action on this later on. All right, so we have something for Bet the Barn, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Cory, I took a little bit more of your time tonight than I originally had said, but I sure am glad that you stopped by the program. We have so much to talk about after this, but shout out to Cory Thorpe. And where do they find you, as if we didn't know already?
Yeah, anywhere you want to be, that's where we are. NAIAFBALL. Come see us on Instagram is booming. We're up 1,000 followers on Instagram, like anyone cares. Twitter/X, heck, Facebook. I'm trying to drum that up to 1,000 followers on Facebook, and just get that going. Meta's been a fun place to be this year.
All right, and I get to meet my friend Cory in person, live.
Yeah.
In less than 2 months. We are less than 2 months away from a trip to Fort Worth, Texas, and that's going to be a lot of fun, Cory. I'm looking forward to that. But I hope I know we'll get a chance to talk again before then. But Cory Thorpe from NAIAFBALL, thank you again for stopping by, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Cory is in another time zone, so we're going to let him get back to family and doing all that. And I don't know if any of you all are in the Eastern time zone or not, but if you are, thanks for watching. We are here in the Central time zone. I know a number of folks that watch it here are Central time zone folks and Mid-Mountain time zone folks as well. So lots to talk about tonight. Jason, thanks for being on with us tonight again. Matt, Jeff, good to see your name come up there as well. I don't need these anymore. All right. I think I need a new set of headphones anyway, but I don't need them anymore tonight. And you know what else we don't need? We all know who I am. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about college football. And let's get into the rest of the show. Now, we're going to run through the docket. 44 games on the docket tonight. 44, that's my number, by the way. 44 games on the docket for Saturday, all of them Saturday games. We're also going to talk tonight about teams that have the inside track to win the automatic bid to the playoffs. It's time to start talking about the playoffs. I know, playoffs, right. It is time to start talking about that, and we're going to talk about automatic qualifiers, who has the inside track tonight, not talking a lot about at-large stuff tonight. Then we will get to the Bet the Barn segment, and we'll wrap it up, talk a little bit more along the way. So definitely stay with us tonight. If you're in the chat, thank you for already showing up. If you are live watching us and you haven't already shown up in the chat and been a part of this community, I invite you to come on in. It is a great community here on Midwest Sports Net, especially during college football this week. 2 times a week, live shows each week. And so I just encourage you, step on in, let us know who you're cheering for, from where you're watching, or both. Let us know from where you're watching and who you're cheering for. So that would be really, really cool. Dogs are barking outside. Don't know if you can hear that or not. It's out there where the barn is. So I don't know if they found something too. Thank you. That was a good play. That was a good impression, Robert. Thank you very much. Looking, by the way, Robert, let me say this one more thing, programming note. We're going to be on the road for Midwest Sports Saturday, not this weekend, one more weekend at home. We thought we were going to be on the road twice in October. We were on the road no times in October. November 1st, we will be on the road with Midwest Sports Saturday, and we're going to be up in Wichita, Kansas. And so there may even be time to get to stop and visit with folks along the way. So just wanted to throw that one out there really, really quickly. All right, let's get to our numbers. 44 games on the docket. Let's talk about all of them, some a little more than others, and go over the schedule to hand for Saturday, October 25th, 2025, to the Sun Conference, where Southeastern's 5-1, and they're going on the road to take on St. Thomas. The Bobcats are 4-2, ninth meeting all time. Both teams have won 4 games apiece, so this is the one that at least sets the tone for the year. You get some bragging rights to go at 5-4 in the series. Southeastern led by Thomas Ibrahim, a grad student defensive lineman, 8 sacks he's responsible for, and that leads the NAI in that category. Every time we talked about the Fire this year, we've talked about their defense, and we're not going to stop talking about that right now. Tough order, though, on Saturday. St. Thomas led by Keely Watson, who has 16 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown this season. So Southeastern, St. Thomas looking to make a little bit of ground in that Sun Conference. We're definitely going to talk about the Fire a little bit later on. Weber International 4-2 at Kaiser. It's the Warriors' opportunity to try to make some noise in the conference as well. 1 loss, but is it enough to hold them back? Can they make some noise at Kaiser and take down the Seahawks? Hasn't happened before. Kaiser's 9-0 all-time in this series. It won 34-20 last year. Kaiser's never lost a Sun Conference game. Led this season on the ground attack, Jaden Miller averaging 103.5 yards per game, 9 rushing touchdowns. And history says Kaiser's going to take this one. Can the Warriors do something on defense? It's been about the defense. It really has not been about the offense as much for Weber International this year. So can they slow down Kaiser at home? That is the question. Of course, Shea Spencer, anytime he's at the helm, good things are likely to happen for the Seahawks. Florida Memorial's 3-3. Thomas is 0-6. Florida Memorial has won both of the previous 2 meetings with the Nighthawks, and the Nighthawks have not only lost 2 straight against Florida Memorial, but 11 straight overall. For Florida Memorial, Tedrick Wilcox, a freshman from Atlanta, got his first start last week, took over for Tyquan Wiggins, who had started a couple of games for the Lions, and then Wilcox is in there. Wiggins saw some time last week in the victory, but not a lot right there in the middle of the game. So we'll see if they go with Wilcox again. Word out on that. We're trying to get confirmation to see if that's going to happen. Ave Maria 2-4 on the road at Warner, and the Royals are winless and another losing streak in the Sun Conference. Someone's going to get that stopped a little bit later on because Warner has lost 13 consecutive games. The Royals are giving up 44.3 points a game, and really the only time that Warner has scored this year, and I know there are a couple of outliers here, but when they get in the red zone, very, very confident in the red zone, 8 touchdowns, 5 field goals. They've been consistent in the red zone. They just haven't been there often enough. They've been kept back. A battle of field position has not gone their way. For Ave Maria, they just need a win here. You get the win last week over Thomas. Everyone has gotten a win over Thomas. This week, you're hoping to get the win over Warner. Everyone's gotten a win over Warner. And then it's Kaiser, Southeastern, and St. Thomas. So the rest of the schedule for the Gyrenes is not looking promising at this point in time. Pick up another win here. See if you get momentum and an actual win streak heading into the game next week against Kaiser. That's a tough one. To the Appalachian, where Rio Grande is 0-6 all time now, as this program's just gotten started, and the Red Storm go on the road to take on Point. First meeting between these two, as you might imagine. Skyhawks are 2-5 this season. Rio Grande's been shut out 4 times this year and scored 6 points twice. That means they've scored 12 points overall in the season. Need to get some offense going for Coach Thurston there. For Point, Samir Wiley, 11 for 14 passing last week, 222 passing yards, 78.6% completion rate. That's promising for the Skyhawks. He had 2 touchdown passes to Quintravious Teasley along the way for the win. in the loss. Point did lose to Pikeville by 52, but they actually saw some light at the end of the tunnel there. Kentucky Christian. I've talked about the Knights this season, and I'm not going to stop talking about the Knights this season. They get a win over a D2 program last week, 35-27 on the road in Ohio against Central State. 4-3 are the Knights now this year. They go on the road to take on Union Commonwealth. The Bulldogs are 2-5. 17th meeting between the two. Kentucky Christian 10-6 all-time, winning last year by 3 points. Jackson Wasick passing for more than 300 yards a game, and that's fifth in the NAI, 303.3 yards per game. For Union Commonwealth, they stopped a 4-game slide last week with a win over Rio Grande, looking to make it 2 in a row. Can they do it at home? Bulldogs trying to take down the Knights. Pikeville, our pick to win the AAC from the outset of the season, no matter what the non-conference portion of the schedule looked like. And again, it looked like a bunch of L's for the Bears, and that's what it was in 24. It's what it is this year in 25. Since that time, though, 2 wins for UPike. The Bears go on the road to take on the Rams of Bluefield. 12th meeting between the two. Pikeville's won 10 of the 11 previous meetings, including a 48-34 victory last season. Bluefield won its only game in the series, 50-26. This was 3 years ago in 2022. I remember this one. Nate Hurstich lit up the board. 329 yards passing through 7 touchdowns against Pikeville in this game. Jaquan Ebron, 4 receiving touchdowns in the game as well. But those are names that are now part of Bluefield lore. They're not out on the field right now for the Rams. And so for Coach Lusk, trying to make something happen at home, seeing if they can stop what Pikeville is looking to do through the Appalachian Conference this year. 28.7 first downs a game. That's what the Bears are picking up, even through the losses. That's tops in the NAI this season. And I will mention this also. You want to talk about conference players of the year? Xavier Malone, averaging 385.2 points per game. That's tops in the NAI, as you might imagine. And if Pikeville runs through the remaining schedule, the Appalachian Conference, especially takes the title, write in Xavier Malone and then just go to lunch, because he is the conference player of the year if that happens. I don't think there should be any question about that at all. So keep that in mind. Xavier Malone, the campaign here on Midwest Sportsnet is alive and well for Malone, Appalachian Conference player of the year. Bluefield last won against Thomas. The Rams defeated Thomas in the season opener, and since that time, Bluefield is 0-5. So 1-5 now coming in. I don't know if you can hear my dogs outside or not. Let me know, by the way, in the comments if you can, because, wow, they are loud right now. And one in particular, I think it's the smallest one. I think it's the mini pin that's making some noise out there right now. I think he's a little frustrated because I haven't let him back in. Not stopping the program to go let the mini pin back in. We'll see. Faulkner 4-3 on the road at Lindsey Wilson, 6-1. 11th meeting between the two. Lindsey Wilson is 8-2. Won 47-21 last year. They've won 7 straight in the series. The streak, by the way, for Lindsey Wilson over Faulkner started, again, as you might imagine, 7 games ago, started with a 20-17 win in the first round of the 2014 playoffs. The Blue Raiders defeated the Eagles in the first round then. And by the way, Faulkner hasn't been back to the playoffs since that loss. So maybe that was a program-changing loss since then, although with Coach Brown now at 4-3 on the season. Tough time to meet Lindsey Wilson coming off the first loss of the season. They'll be at home for this one. Deuce Marshall for Faulkner accounted for 5 touchdowns last week in the loss, including the game-winning 2-point conversion, 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown as well. But for Lindsey Wilson, we talked about this with Cory a little bit earlier here on the program. And if you didn't see Cory Thorpe from NAIAFBALL stop by the channel tonight, we appreciate him and the work that he does with his channel and all that he has going on out there as well. Tay Saunders, 135.3 rushing yards a game, 3rd in the NAI. He accounted for 12 rushing touchdowns. That's in the top 5 in the nation as well. Tate Rice has just stepped in off the bench and become QB1 and locked in his name right there with the season he's had for Lindsey Wilson and for Coach Kleckler. Also, Kai Sherrard, 9 receiving touchdowns. That's 6th in the NAI as well. The offense is there for the Blue Raiders, and I imagine it's going to be a tough challenge for Faulkner on the road in this one on Saturday. So keep that in mind. Big game ahead, Faulkner at Lindsey Wilson. Still in the Mid-South, Bethel, the Wildcats on the road taking on Cumberland's 25th meeting between these two. Bethel's won 3 straight in the series. Destin Chance, I talked about him early on. Bethel really didn't get a chance to get started well. It was one of those things that, you start off against Mary Hardin Baylor, which, again, Division III program, and not just any Division III program. Mary Hardin Baylor won 3 national championships in the last 10 years. It's Texas college football. It's bound to be good unless you're, the Longhorns right now and you're starting Arch Manning. But that's a whole different story. They beat Oklahoma. I know. Go ahead and put that in the comments if you like to. That's fine. But Destin Chance. Oh, and then the other opportunity he had, they try to get things going against Kaiser, go down 7-0. Weather shuts that game down, so it goes down to the forfeit. The Wildcats start the season 0-2. Since that time, Bethel has won 3 straight, and Destin Chance has looked good. I think this is one of the best pickups in NAI this season, coming in to Bethel from Division III. Chance is completing 61% of his passes. He's had 8 passing touchdowns. Yes, 4 interceptions as well. But his yards per attempt has been up each and every game since the season started. So I think that I think Bethel's looking good. But then you look on the other side of the ball, and Drew Gregg is phenomenal. What a great season the grad student's having. 5 passing touchdowns last week. He has 19 on the season. So Bethel at Cumberland's, this is going to be a good game as well. All right. I didn't hear if anybody heard the dogs. So Robert said, okay, is the storm rolling through? I need to be able to put my comments up there. It's supposed to roll through. I hope it waits until actually after I get off the air, because I remembered that the windows in the car are down. And we just got a new windshield on the car. We just got the car door fixed. I'm not kidding. The left rear door, it just started flying open, and we couldn't get it to stop. And we had to do that for longer than I'm going to admit on the air. But there was a recall on it, and it just got fixed today. So I've got the door that actually shuts now. We can take it to the car wash again. We've got a new windshield now without cracks all the way through it. And the rain is coming tonight. So we'll let it rain on it first, then we'll take it to the car wash. And all right, well, the storm's getting loud where Robert is, and he's about, I want to say, 2.5 to 2:45 drive time from where I am. So if the storm will hold off just a little bit to get to where I am, that'd be great. Leo, thanks for stopping by. Glad you're joining in tonight as well. We are, we just wrapped up the Mid-South. We're heading to the Mid-States right now. And it will give me a chance to pause, take a drink of water here in the nondescript cup. And I'll tell you what, if this team ever wins again this season, I'll tell you the Division I team logo that is actually on this cup right now, but it may or may not happen. Anyhow, but I want to invite you, if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. We're almost halfway to the goal here of 5K. That's right. The goal is to get 5K here on the YouTube channel, and we really kind of sold out for YouTube. And Cory was talking about all the socials, and we haven't been active on Instagram lately. We're trying to keep active on Twitter, X. I still want to call it Twitter, and Facebook's out there as well. But we sold out to do well on YouTube, and we need your help. So we're almost to the halfway point there. We could get that done tonight. You might even have a wife or a girlfriend whose, channel needs to be subscribed to this one. Their phone needs to be subscribed. That could be one of those things. Mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is subscribed to Midwest Sportsnet. I have a really good mother-in-law too, though, so that helps a lot. Let's go into the mid-states, though. Let's talk about Defiance College at Indiana Wesleyan. Yeah, we can talk about that. First meeting between the two programs. Indiana Wesleyan has been on a roll since the opening of the season. 5-2 right now. The Yellow Jackets for Defiance are 2-5. 2-0 to start the season. They lost 5 straight since then. For Indiana Wesleyan, 49.6 points a game, just outside that 50 mark. I know we reserved that for friends in Southwestern, but it's true. And Arjun Lothi, what a season. 328.9 passing yards per game, second in the NAI, 23 passing touchdowns too. And Isaac Smith has caught 9 of those touchdown passes this season. So a big game up there in Marion. Indiana Wesleyan trying to go 2-0 in Mid-East play. Taylor, also in the Mid-East, is 4-3 and would love to pick up another win after defeating Defiance last week. Taylor's on the road at Lawrence Tech, 6th meeting between the two. Taylor, it's been about the defense, and the defense has been big for the Trojans. Now, we talked about that running game a lot last year for Coach Mingo. How about the defense? This season so far, It's a defense that's created 17 turnovers and, wait for it, 17 sacks as well. Very balanced attack at the line and beyond. So the defense has been there, and they have Nathan Parker, who's carried the ball for 122.4 rushing yards per game, 5th in the NAIA, and he has 13 rushing touchdowns as well. That's 3rd in the NAIA. So there we go. All right, let's move on along as we see Madonna on the road at Siena Heights. 6th meeting between the two. It's the farewell tour for Siena Heights. The Saints are 5-0 all time. They won 45-3 last year in the season finale. For Siena Heights, this has been the way to go. It's been loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. But the Saints are also very effective in the red zone. 22 of 23. That's 96% scoring in the red zone, 17 touchdowns, 5 field goals. And the defense has forced another defensive superlative here, 16 turnovers and 26 sacks. So a lot of defense there in the Mid-States, Mid-East. For Madonna, though, it was on the road all the month of September. Now, we celebrated with them when they won because we said here on the channel they were going to win at least one game this year. Could be games. Could this second game be here? Be on the road at Siena Heights. Their only one's been on the road so far. But their home schedule after those 4 games on the road was Marion, St. Francis of Indiana, and Indiana Wesleyan. That's brutal. So they're going on to take on a Saints team that's 3-3 and due a loss, by the way. Hate to say that for the Saints in the farewell tour, but we'll see how Madonna does in this one. It's going to be an uphill struggle. They're going to have to put points on the board, and I don't know how they're going to do it. 2 one-loss teams in the Midwest are Marion and Olivet Nazarene, and this is the 9th meeting between the two. Can the Tigers break through here? Marion is 8-0 all time against Olivet Nazarene, won 45-40 last season. Marion lost to UIndy in the opener and has won 6 straight since then. Keegan LaBelle leading the way, 123.7 rushing yards per game and 13 rushing touchdowns. For Coach Avant Mitchell, his Tigers, here's that red zone number again, 27 of 28. How about that? That's pretty impressive as well. A little bit higher percentage there, still rounding to 96%. 3rd in the NAI, 23 touchdowns and 4 field goals. So if the Tigers get close, it's going to be points on the board. It's almost automatic. St. Francis of Indiana, 5-2. At St. Xavier, 5-2, 20th meeting. And again, something we talked about. We haven't mentioned St. Xavier as much this year, probably as needed to be done. We're mentioning them now. The Cougars are out there. The offense, part of it's the offense wasn't there as much early on. Still picked up the wins. And then has stepped up against St. Francis of Illinois. Absolutely there. For St. Francis, Indiana, Joshua Kulka, his team was shut out against Marion last week, 49-0. But he's had a solid year, 63% passing completion for him. New head coach there, Coach Sherman, has him going the right direction. That was a tough loss last week against Marion, so can they right the ship? I know Coach Sherman's been a part of wins and losses against Marion over the years. So how do they shake this off, and what can they do against a 5-2 team on the road? And there we go. All right. Well, you know what? We'll put this on here. Chat, by the way, I appreciate that, Dave. You know what? I think it'd be cool if Robert can make it up there. That would be really neat to see and to be a part of that. Let's throw this one in here really quickly. Matt says we're one step closer. Mrs. H just subscribed. Rock on, Matt. Way to go. Thank you very much. All right. And Robert's son redshirted this year. So I understand that. Well, Robert, we may have to just both of us connect there and make the trip up, because I'm telling you, I'm going to make that trip to Sioux City sometime very soon. Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet is going to go with me also to that trip to Sioux City. We both want to get to see that area up there. But we'll talk about that game when we get the GPAC here in just a moment. But yes, thank you, Matt, for that. We're one step closer. We're one step closer. All right. We talked about St. Francis of Illinois. The Fighting Saints are 2-7. They're on the road at Judson. Judson's 0-7 right now. The Eagles are in the middle of a 16-game losing streak. And here's part of the issue for Judson right now. Sean Flynn, the head coach, known for what he can do offensively, but the defense hasn't given him an opportunity that much. Giving up 57.7 points a game. That's 94th in the NAI this year. And by the way, just in case you didn't know, there are 94 teams that play football in the NAI. So dead last in the NAI. Defense is also giving up 556.4 yards per game and also 94th in the NAI. So that's a tough number to overcome right there. St. Francis put up 66 points against Madonna, gave up 66 points or 65 the next week against Indiana Wesleyan. This is a St. Francis team that's been playing to the level of their opponent. Which one of those teams will play up and find a way to get the win in the Midwest there? Let's move on along to the Heart now. Grandview, the number one team in the country, is 6-0 and has now won 66 consecutive regular season games. The Vikings travel to Mid-America Nazarene, heading down to Olathe, Kansas for this one. Pioneers are 5-2. Ninth meeting all time. And guess what? Grandview has won all 8 of the previous matchups. 24-7 back in 2023, the last time these two teams played. Grandview with a victory over Peru State last week, and they had to gut that one out. Really, absolutely had to fight through on a Thursday night coming off a bye week, get the win over the Bobcats, remain undefeated not only overall but also in the Heart North. Mid-America Nazarene's coming off a loss. The Pioneers scored 14 straight, and then Baker scored 34 unanswered. And there's a difference between unanswered and straight. Sometimes, in this case, they were both the same because Mid-America Nazarene never answered back at all. 34 straight points for Baker. And so Mid-America Nazarene comes in off a loss. How about this for Jackson Waring? First National Football Federation National Scholar Athlete in program history. He's been nominated for a big award as well. The grad student, and he won an $18,000 scholarship. That's cool. He listed, by the way, the site listed all these things that he's done this year. And one thing at the bottom, and we're going to promote this here on Midwest Sports Net. We're Jackson Waring fans anyway, unabashed Jackson Waring fans. He leads a Bible study for his team every week. So that's really pretty cool. So props to Jackson Waring on that. 66 straight regular season wins. When we last saw the Pioneers, they were giving up 34 straight points. So what's going to happen here? Strange things can happen in Olathe and Mid-America Nazarene. This would not go against the division record. Now, this is important here. Win or lose this game, this doesn't affect what Mid-America Nazarene it can do in the Heart South. However, the loss last week was to Baker, and that's a South Divisional team. So, win or lose, you want to get the win if you're Mid-America Nazarene. You really, if you're going to stay in the hunt for an at-large bid, you want to get all the wins, but you see how it works out there against Grandview. Again, Graceland, 2-4. Peru State, 4-3. 18th meeting between the two. Graceland led right now by Javon Miner with 139 rushing yards per game. That's second in the NAI. For Peru State, we asked this question on Sunday night. Will the real Peru State please stand up? Well, we know this. 24 offensive touchdowns for the Bobcats. 16 passing, 8 rushing, and 12 turnovers. They've given up the ball 12 times, 13 more turnovers on downs. Now, this is an incredible number, by the way. You got to give Coach Akingay credit because he's not afraid to go for it on fourth down. They've gone for it on fourth down 20 times this year, been successful only 7. So if you count turnovers on downs as turnovers and you add them to the 12 turnovers, 10 interceptions, 2 fumbles, that's 25. There are more turnovers than touchdowns for the Bobcats this year. And that right there, really, I think if you want a stat that locks up why, you're right at that mid-season mark of 4-3, I think that's the stat right there. So which Bobcat team is going to step up, and can Peru State limit the turnovers for the rest of the season at home as the Yellow Jackets from Graceland come to town? William Woods, first win of the year, second win in program history, but it's the first win first win for the program against an NAIA opponent. The first win last year was against Westminster from Missouri, and that's a Division III opponent. So congratulations to the Owls for getting their first win ever against an NAIA opponent. Won 36-35 against Missouri Valley last week. 1-6, William Woods taking on 6-1 Benedictine. Second meeting all time. Ravens won 86-0 in the 2024 season finale this year. So there's still some momentum that the Owls can take in, but traveling to Atchison for this one, it's going to be tough. The Ravens are putting up 48.6 points a game, fourth in the NAI. And Jackson Dooley has thrown 22 passing touchdowns this year. We can talk a lot about what the Ravens have done. Lots of good traffic on social media. If you follow the Ravens on Twitter, then you see they're doing a lot of things on the field and off the field as well. So great things going on, I think, for Benedictine. They host William Woods this week. All right. And Matt, I agree with you, and I'm not sure what the numbers are. You may have to drop those numbers are because I don't know what the comments numbers are exactly, but you're right. Their fourth down numbers, it's a bit of a struggle. And so, but again, props going for it. You have an opportunity to do it. This isn't like 1930s with Newt Rockne and some of the ways that the way that they set it up back then. I don't know if you've ever studied some of the history of college football in this, and Newt Rockne, I think, and a couple of others, if the other team punted you and you had it on your own 25 to goal line, they would punt on first down. They just punt it right back. And if you had it between your 25 and midfield, then if you didn't get on first down, they'd punt on second down. And the same thing, you get it in this quadrant here of midfield over to the opponent's 25, they might punt on third down. We're not talking about numbers like that where you're going to punt on first down. But you never know until you go for it. And so anyway, I saw my Tennessee Volunteers make it on fourth down, I think, just about every time last week. Still found a way to lose to Alabama, but that's another game, like Robert mentioned. Why we even talk about that game right now? Another homecoming game. There we go. With all the homecoming games that we talked about last week, how about this one? Another homecoming game in Atchison. Why not? And, you talk about sometimes people don't pick the right teams to play. I say this with all the respect in the world to William Woods. You definitely pick the right team to play. You want to pick a team that's in its second year of existence right there. So, all right. Analytics show it's more likely the better option to go forward on fourth down. Seriously, if it's, 4th and 8, I get. On your own 27, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But some of those that are close range, I mean, surely, and you get quarterbacks like say Judah Holzclaw from Nelson. Judah Holzclaw is 6'7". If Nelson is 4th and 1, give him the ball and let him just fall forward. That's 2 yards right there. So anyway, I think it's a valid point. All right, back to this. So where are we? Benedictine homecoming in Atchison. Yes, it is. To Baker, where the Wildcats are suddenly 3-3. They were 0-3 to start the season. Now they're 3-3. Central Methodist 2-5. 53rd meeting between the two. Baker won last year 62-7. With every game, the Wildcats look better. With every game, Truman Julesgaard looks better. Favor the Wildcats in this one. I think it's a favorably matchup. It's for St. Ambrose. And the Fighting Bees are now 2-5. St. Ambrose coming off a victory over Graceland. And Culver Stockton beat Clark last time out by a touchdown. 13th meeting between the two. St. Ambrose is 8-4 all time. However, Culver Stockton won 35-21 last year. The last time St. Ambrose had won a game in this series, they won 42-21 back in the year 2000. So it's been a quarter of a century for the Fighting Bees, and hoping to stop that kind of bleeding. I will throw this out here for this matchup. Alec Ponder for St. Ambrose, Liam Thornton for Culver Stockton. Two quarterbacks should be starting quarterbacks in the game. Whichever one of those two has the better game is much more likely for that team to win. Both of them have had quality seasons. And I would say this, Alec Ponder's had a lot of good numbers that went by the wayside. The team came up with an L. They're at a point of the season now. If Ponder does well, you think the team's going to be able to do well also. So just something there for Coach Phillips' squad. William Penn is 6-1 on the road at Clark, 1-6. The Statesmen have won all 5 of the previous meetings. This is the 6th meeting between these two teams. And Destin Loring, as Cory mentioned earlier, a candidate I would think for the Hart Conference Player of the Year. That's in a conference that has Jackson Waring as well, I might add. 139.7 rushing yards per game. Leads the nation. 16 rushing touchdowns, leads the nation. So that is there. Clark lost 54-0 to Peru State, lost 45-10 to Benedictine, but everyone else they played with. So the Pride playing with Pride. This one's in Lamoni, and it should be an interesting game for Clark. No, they're not Lamoni. Graceland's in Lamoni. So this one should be an interesting game for Clark. William Penn trying to get the 7th win of the season. One more in the Heart, Missouri Baptist on the road at Missouri Valley. And for Missouri Valley, it's been win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. They're due a win. I would also say that Coach Black has the team going in the right direction as well. So this one should be fun. Let's go to the GPAC. why not? Let's talk about Concordia and Morningside. I would say this is the game of the week in the conference, and I think that there might be a couple others that could, have a debate, but I think it's going to go the other direction. Bulldogs are 5-1. Mustangs are 5-2. 24th meeting between the two, and Roll Stangs fans are going to like this stat. Morningside is 22-1 all time in this series. Morningside won by 30 last year, 51-21. Now, granted, it was early in the season. Morningside finished atop the standings in the GPAC. Concordia finished 8-2, and on the outside looking in. And I mean, had to be close on the outside looking in, but it was a tough one. So Morningside again, not only 22-1 all time, but the Mustangs have won 21 consecutive in the series. You have to go back to 2003. Concordia won 34-19 in the second game played between these two schools. And since that time, it's been all Morningside all the time. Hey, shout out to Lenny. Thanks for stopping by tonight, Lenny. And a Roll Stangs again for Lenny. I'm sure that you have a vested interest in this game as well. Let's talk about Concordia on the road. Adam Van Cleve, 114.6 receiving yards per game, 5th in the NAIA. How about the receiver on the other side of the ball? They probably won't be on the field at the same time. Drew Sellen, 117.4 receiving yards a game, 4th in the NAI in that category. So 2 of the top 5 receivers in the league are going to be on the field, again, not at the same time, but matching up against one another. Gideon Stark at the helm for the Bulldogs, Zach Chevalier at the helm for Morningside as well. The Mustangs, 536.9 yards per game, 2nd in the NAIA in that category. It's an offense that's just very tough. And by the way, I will throw out there as well, Lennox Brown, and I do not have his numbers in front of me at the moment, but he has been quite a factor for that team, has picked up some big-time scores through the air, on the ground as well. I think the move has been so good for him, and it was Chevalier in doing what he's doing. Morningside, it looks very tough. When they're at their best, they're at their best, and no question there. Now, what does it come down to? Well, if you're watching both these two teams, and Robert, I don't know that you're going to want to hear this stat as much, but I've been following a little bit in the chat over there and watching the conversation with Dave and more. First off, they have to get the lead, and let's go ahead and put this up there. If they hold any kind of lead in the game, that is that's a big deal. They have to get the lead first, and I think they can, because I think both of these two teams, if you look at what's there, and of course you guys have watched these games more with more intimacy than I've watched it, because you have vested interests in these games, and we try to be neutral here on Midwest Sportsnet. So having said that, you look at the way that Concordia has given up a lead and giving up yards specifically through the air, but given up yards overall, given up points. This is a Morningside team that can attack through the air. Now, there's a ground game that's there as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away from that, but we're talking about throwing the ball here with both of these two quarterbacks. Chevalier can throw the ball. He's got great receivers, including Sellen. So that one's a tough one for Concordia. But if you're Morningside, you have to look at this too. Number one, you put up only 13 points against a tough defense in Northwestern. I don't think Concordia's defense is quite what Northwestern's is. Can I say that without being too disagreeable there, Concordia fans? But I don't know it's quite what I'll say this. I don't think it's right. I don't think at week 9, Concordia's defense is what week 9 Northwestern's defense is. Now, that having been said, Morningside put up only 13 points. Morningside also has given up some points to some teams that are not what you would consider to be top-tier teams in the conference. So this one should be and could be a game through 3 quarters and beyond. I would be surprised if one team pulled away to where you look at it at the half and say, we've got enough of a pad, we can keep the other team at, just, for lack of a better phrase, just pull the Heisman and keep the other team at arm's length. I think this is a contest that's going to be in question through 3 quarters and beyond. So there you go. Dave, the running back here. Let's go ahead and throw that up there too. At least Lenny has the right logo on there. There we go. All right. The running back from Concordia came in last year and was a problem. And and the thing about Concordia too, I would say this, there are a lot of familiar names that we talked about for Morningside last year and this year as well. There are a lot of new names for Concordia, and I think that's the thing too. But I really like Coach Daverco. Coach Daverco is one of those, and Coach Pinner from Dort. And we haven't gotten to Dort yet. That's the next game on the docket. But those two coaches were very, very confident in the people who were stepping up. I mean, they both lost some big names from last year, but the people who were stepping up for Concordia and the people who were stepping up for Dort, you just listen to those coaches in the summer and in the camp. They were very confident that they were going to get production. And right now, between the two, one loss between those two programs, obviously the players who were waiting in the wings. Can we pause there for a moment and say, how cool is that players were waiting in the wings, that they didn't get into the transfer portal and jump ship and go play for somebody else? They waited their turn, and look at what's come about from it. A Concordia team that's on the cusp, looking to get a huge victory here if they can against Morningside. You've got a Dort team that is on the cusp, looking to go undefeated if they can, still playing Concordia and Morningside later on. This because players waited. They didn't jump ship. They didn't run away to try to find greener grass on the other side or another pasture or whatever else you want to find over there in the other pasture. They weren't looking for it. They waited in the wings. They waited their turn. Gideon Stark behind McGarvey in Concordia. I mean, he's having an incredible season. He waited his turn and plays for a very good coach. And, obviously for Morningside, playing for a good coach as well. Sorry, the soapbox is there. Just had to get on it for a little bit. Robert says whoever can run the ball effectively wins. And I think that's probably how it's going to be. So we'll talk about it more, obviously, on Sunday. This one is one, hopefully, for the fans of football and that's me, that get a chance, hopefully, get to see this one and hear this one for sure. I hope it's one that's contested through three quarters and beyond. So we'll see that. And I believe Robert's right there. The good book says something about being patient, how patience is a virtue. And it very much is. I've also learned in my life, Robert, never to pray for patience, because God will give you an opportunity to be patient. So there we go. All right. Speaking of Dort, the Defenders are back at home in 6-0, and they take on Midland. 18th meeting between the two. Midland's won 15 of the previous 17. So Dort trying to, break up some ground in this series as well. The defense for the Defenders giving up just 7.8 points a game. That's tops in the NAI. But Brody Johnson has been no slouch in the quarterback position for Midland. 11 passing touchdowns in the last two games. This one could be interesting as well for Dort to try to hold off the Warriors offense. Hastings is 3-4. Mount Marty is 4-3. Last year, after the loss to Dort, Mount Marty's season went downhill a little bit, went just 2-2. That's the last game of the season at Doane. Heartbreaker, 2-point conversion at the end. We've talked about it here a number of times. That Dort game was pivotal. Can the Lancers turn things around to get a chance at home there in Yankton against Hastings on Saturday? Fifth meeting between the two. The Broncos have won 3 of the previous 4. Waldorf is 0-7. Dakota Wesleyan is 2-5, but probably feels like 0-7. It's been a rough year for Dakota Wesleyan since that season opening win against Dakota State. Second meeting between these two. And Waldorf comes in with an NAI leading 21-game losing streak. But at least they're tops in some category there. Waldorf has struggled to score this year, and it's just been rough. Doane is at Briar Cliff. The Tigers are 1-5. The Chargers 4-4. Doane has won 15 of 20 previous games in this series, although Briar Cliff did win 15-10 last season. Briar Cliff coming off a shutout loss to Midland. Doane coming off a loss to Mount Marty, teams we've already talked about. Something needs to change here, and the Chargers need to put points on the board this week if they're going to try to come away with a win. To the KCAC, Evangel, Avila. Avila has struggled this season. They're back at home in Kansas City, 1-6, taking on Evangel, 5-2. Evangel picked to win the Kessinger division. I was trying to mix up all kinds of words there. The Kessinger division. Evangel won 44-3 over Avila last year. The the Valor have won 4 straight in the series and have the upper hand in the KCAC Kessinger division right now. Bethany at Bethel. Both teams are 2-5. Bethel has won 6 straight in the series, and both teams are coming off a loss last week. This one's tough. Tabor at 3-4, trying to keep the upper hand in their division, beating Bethel last week, trying to go to 2-0 on the road at Ottawa. 47th meeting between these two. Ottawa's won 2 out of every 3 in the series and won 3 straight overall. Now to the Bissell. Friends 7-0, Southwestern 6-1. 73rd meeting between these two programs. Southwestern owns a 43-28-1 all-time series lead. This is one, again, we talked about teams that have had Friends circled on the calendar. How about this one? You know Southwestern has this circled. This one was in Winfield, too. Back-to-back years this game's being played in Winfield. Last year, Friends won 37-31. Friends has won 2 in a row now. Southwestern won the previous 5. But this was the walk-off blocked field goal taken to the house scoop and score game. 31-31, and then Friends blocked a field goal, bounced just right into the hands of one of the Falcons. He took it all the way to the house, 37-31, as time expired. So no lead is safe in this game down to the last field goal attempt. Seriously, you know that the Mound Builders want this one back. Let's talk some numbers here because there are a lot of numbers to talk about. Friends, 56.1 points a game, tops in the NAI. Southwestern, 55.9 points a game, second in the NAI. Oh, and by the way, the Builders have scored 216 points in the last 3 games alone, averaging 72 points a game, again, the last 3 games. Southwestern, 570.4 yards of offense a game, tops in the NAI. Friends, 528.7, third in the NAI. Friends, rushing game, 480.1 yards per game on the ground, obviously tops in the NAI. But Southwestern moves the ball through the air, 346.7 passing yards a game. That's third in the NAI. The defense for Friends, 27 sacks on the year. That's tops in the NAI. Southwestern has given up 8 sacks this year. Not really a lot, but still, it hasn't just been impenetrable going through that line. For Friends, Cavante Baker has 16 rushing touchdowns. That's tops in the NAI. For Southwestern, Jamie Odom has 25 passing touchdowns. That's tops in the NAIA. These are some huge numbers, a lot on the line. They're combining for 112 points a game. Yes, it's in the Bet the Barn segment if you're just tuning in. We'll talk about this later on. Those are a lot of numbers, and they're huge. And they're going to be on the field in Winfield, Kansas on Saturday. This one is a big one. So much on the line. And I would say a playoff spot could be on the line in this one. Obviously an automatic bid, but I don't want to talk about at-large too much tonight, but I think we could be looking at an at-large possibility on the line here. So big game on Saturday. Sterling 1-6 at Kansas Wesleyan. Coach Middleton for the Coyotes was on social media this week saying, hey, he's looking for transfers. He's already looking ahead. He wants some folks that like playing football and are ready to work hard. So check out Coach Middleton. Kansas Wesleyan 5-2 on the year and 1-0 in divisional play. St. Mary and McPherson, the Bulldogs coming off a tough loss to Friends last week. 25th meeting between these two programs. All I have to say is what Mark Carrion can do through the air. I expect a lot of that against the Spires on Saturday. Favorable matchup for McPherson. They're going to be playing at home in this one. To the Sooner Athletic Conference, Langston 2-5. Texas Wesleyan 5-2. Langston won the first 4 matchups in this series. Texas Wesleyan has won the last 3, including a 49-7 victory last year. Rams are at home in Fort Worth, which is the site of the NAI football championship game on December 20th. Texas College, the Steers are 0-6. Louisiana Christian 5-3 on the year, 4-1 in Sooner Athletic Conference play. And the Wildcats have won 4 of 5 all-time in the series, including a 6-point win. Texas College won the only time in the series last year. It was a 6-point win for the Steers, 40-34. Nelson taking on a Division III opponent. Second meeting between the two. They played in 2016, and Hardin-Simmons won 61-24. The Lions are 1-5. Hardin-Simmons is 6-0. favorable matchup for the Division III team in this one, as Hardin Simmons has won 23 straight regular season games. Some tough scheduling for Nelson right there. All right, Wayland Baptist 4-2, Arkansas Baptist 3-5. Wayland Baptist lost the first 2 games and then have won 4 straight since then. I told you at the start of the season we should watch what Coach Inojo's team does, and to that point, they have been shining of late and won 4 straight on the road in Little Rock for this one. And finally, we get to the Frontier Conference, and if Matt is still around, and I believe he is still around, the Comets are the best. C-O-M-E-T-S. Comets are the best. They're 5-3 right now, and they're on the road against a Montana Tech team that is 7-0 for the first time in program history. Second meeting between the two, the Ore Diggers won 31-7 when I was 10 years old, all the way back in 1981, the last time these two teams had played. So it's been a year or two since that happened. Mayville State coming off a 21-17 win over Northern last week, and Montana Tech also coming off a victory against Northern 2 weeks ago, a little bit wider margin there, 49-7. DeAnthony Thompson, did we mention he had 3 interceptions last week? And my question about this for Mayville State, how badly did they need all 3 of those interceptions? Northern's not a bad team. The record, though, hasn't shown them to be a good team. And Mayville State needed the interceptions, needed the points, a 21-17 victory there. So that is the issue right there. For Mayville State, it's Moses and Isaiah. It is the biblical duo of Moses Nuapa and Isaiah Smith leading the way of the ground attack for the Comets. It has been a ground game for the Comets this year. Matt, into the chat there and talk a little Jamestown, but then back with the numbers for the Comets. And they're exactly the same as what Peru State is. 7 of 20 on 4th down. And 1 of 7, of course, this is the shutout at Valley City State. They were 1 for 7 on 4th down. So if you're converting 35% of your 4th down attempts, obviously the number's not good. And so you got turnovers on downs there 13 more times. Is it a good thing or a bad thing that you're gutsy enough to go for it? It was a struggle in the loss against Valley City State. But again, it was a shutout too. So what are you going to do? And Valley City State only scored 21, I think. Pretty sure that's right, Matt. I think it was 21-0 in that game. So, I mean, why not go for on 4th down? You listen, Coach Larson will get no grief from me on that at all. Matter of fact, I support it. And if you're down only 3 touchdowns and you're trying to make things happen, I am totally in favor of that. And you know, there are times we're fans of people here. We try to be neutral on Midwest Sportsnet. Seriously, try to be neutral on Midwest Sportsnet. I don't mind being a fan of people. And Coach Larson, I enjoy visiting with him big time. I'm a fan of Coach Larson there. So stats page heavily in favor of MSU Northern, according to Matt there. So, yeah. All right. Wilson, Torgerson, Montana Tech. Everything has been going right for the Ore Diggers this year. What a great season. This one's on the road. Mayville State has its work cut out for them. I'm interested. I don't know if I can watch this one or not. If I get a chance to watch this one, the Montana Tech broadcast, I'm pretty sure I can because I'm pretty sure it'll be on YouTube. They have a great broadcast, good broadcast team. We had one of the radio guys on earlier, and I hope we get a chance to visit with Asher Lind again later on this season. But, yeah, they have a great broadcast. I'll enjoy watching that one. This one could be fun. Should be fun. I hope it's fun. Montana Western struggled a bit of late, lost to College of Idaho last week by a touchdown. On the road at Simpson. First meeting between these two programs, favorable matchup. I can run stats all day long, and I can talk about Michael Palandry, huge stats. I can talk about Eli Norris, huge stats. I can talk about Seth Shook, huge stats. Let me talk about Simpson, 16-game losing streak. Have not yet won since starting the program. The Red Hawks are in need of a win. This is a tall ask for Simpson. They're in Reading against Montana Western. Favorable matchup, I would think, for the Bulldogs here. Dickinson State's 2-5, having lost 5 straight. However, they've won 9 straight in the series against Valley City State. Rivalry game in North Dakota, as the Vikings are 4-3. They're at home in this one. Dickinson State won both the matchups in 2024. That's back when they were playing the double round robin in the North Star, the final year right there. Dickinson State. I did see that Sanders is QB1 again this week, so we'll see how this turns out for Coach Pete Stanton. Like Coach Stanton as well. He does well there. And Dave, this one isn't in the Bet the Barn segment, but Dave says I'm willing to bet the barn on Western. You know what? I think I'd have to go with you on that one. And I would be swayed there. That's the verb here. If you've been swayed by Dave or swayed by Dave, you've been swayed. That is a new verb here on the channel. Rocky Mountain is 2-0 or 2-0 in divisional play, 2-4 overall on the road at MSU Northern. So this is the 74th meeting between the two, and they split in 2024. And again, Frontier Conference playing 2 games against one another, lots of schools. These two teams split in 2024, both teams with a win. Before that, though, Rocky Mountain won 17 straight in the series. Darius Haskin has been leading the way through the air attack, 127.5 receiving yards a game. That's tops in the NAI. He has 8 receiving touchdowns as well. College of Idaho with a big win over Western last week, 5-1 now at Eastern Oregon. And don't look now, but the Mountaineers are undefeated in divisional play. This is a big matchup. Eastern Oregon upset College of Idaho by 6 last year, 30-24. So we'll see how this plays out. The defense for the Mountaineers giving up just 11.7 points a game. That's 5th in the NAI. And finally, Southern Oregon, 2-5, not the way we thought that the Raiders season was going to go. They're on the road at Arizona Christian, where teams have gone to make things right in the Frontier Conference in the last couple of years. Firestorm 1-5 right now. Third meeting between the two. Southern Oregon has won each of the previous 2 matchups between the two. Arizona Christian's lone win on the season, they had to fly to Mayville, North Dakota to get that win. Sorry, Matt. I just had to throw that one out there. 21-20 victory at Mayville State. It's the only Firestorm win of the year. Southern Oregon has won 2 games this year, both of them against Simpson. So something has to give in this one, Southern Oregon on the road. And I have a lot of Dakota State information, but the Trojans aren't playing this week, so we just won't go there. All right. Bet the Barn. I'll tell you what, let's get one other segment in. If you guys, we're going a little longer tonight. I hope you guys are okay with that. I'll try to wrap it up soon. Need another drink of water. We have 2 segments left, and let's get to one really quickly. Then we'll do the Bet the Barn segment, and I hope that you guys can stick around for just a little bit longer. So let's get this one in if I can find it. Did I go here? Let's go here. Please do what you're supposed to do. There we go. We're going to talk about teams. We're going to talk about teams right now that are on the inside track to win the automatic bid. Okay, so we're not talking at large now. We're talking about teams now. We're 2/3 of the way through the season. We're into conference play. We're into divisional play. So let's look at some teams that have the inside track to get the AQ in their conference. We're going to talk about playoffs right now. Absolutely, we're going to talk about playoffs. So let's talk about playoffs. In the Appalachian, Reinhardt is 3-0 in divisional play. The Eagles have a bye week this week. Pikeville's 2-0. Pikeville was our pick here on the channel to win the conference, and they're on pace for it right now. Lost all 4 games prior to conference play. They're there. Both of these teams have the inside track now because neither has a loss. Now we're looking at Kentucky Christian because Kentucky Christian has the 1 loss to Reinhardt, but still could throw a monkey wrench into things a little bit later on because they play Pikeville in the penultimate game of this season. So keep that in mind. We're looking through inside track now to get an AQ. Okay? Frontier West, Carroll, 3-0. College of Idaho, 3-0. Look at that. Eastern Oregon, 2-0. Did you think about the Mountaineers being at this point? Well, they are. So keep that in mind. All those teams will still with an inside track there. Carroll, you have to think, is a front runner just from the way the Saints have looked all season long. But you can't blow past teams that have not had a loss in divisional play. To the Frontier East, Montana Tech, right there. Rocky Mountain, right there. Rocky Mountain? The Battling Bears are 2-0 in divisional play as well. Can't blow off the Battling Bears right now, so keep that in mind. I keep Dakota State and Mayville State in to look at. Obviously, with the 1 loss, each of them has to make something happen. Dakota State's on a bye this week. Mayville State has a huge game, as we mentioned, on the road in Butte. A lot's going to go down there. Can the Comets pull off a win right there? Let's move on over. Great Plains, Dort at the top of the heap there, 6-0. Concordia and Morningside, each with an opportunity. Whoever loses this game maybe on the outside looking in. Whoever wins this game still has to play Dordt. Oh, and by the way, Dort still has to play both of them, so keep that in mind too. But Dort, obviously, Tier 1 in 2025 through 8 weeks of the season in the GPAC. So the defenders have the inside track. Everything's got to go through Dort right now, through Sioux Center. You've got to go through Sioux Center to get that title right now. Dort looking for its first GPAC title. This would be huge, absolutely huge. All right, let's go with Hart North, Grandview. No surprise there. Culver Stockton with just the one loss and is yet to play Grandview this season. So the Wildcats have an opportunity still to make something happen. Baker and Benedictine, they're heading for a collision course. This happens almost every single year. Mid-American Nazarene, the loss to Baker, still could make something happen. They have been so tough for the Ravens in the last couple of years. So keep that in mind. Could be a three-way tie at the top in the Hart South again, but looking for that automatic qualifying bid. KCAC, the Bissell, 3 teams with 1 win there as divisional play just started. Friends and Southwestern, a colossal matchup on Saturday. Let's look then at the Kessinger, Avila, Evangel, and Tabor. Tabor looking to try to go to 2-0. Evangel and Avila play on Saturday. I think this is a favorable matchup for Evangel in this one. So we keep it in line, moving on along. Each of these teams with no losses, but divisional play just started for the Midwest and the Mideast. We'll know a little bit more next week. Marion and Olivet Nazarene, big matchup right there. And Indiana Wesleyan, Siena Heights, Taylor, all 3 playing different opponents this week. They could all 3 be 2-0 next week. We'll talk more about that conference and those divisions later on. Mid-South Bethel's 2-0. Look at that. The Wildcats are still have the inside track right there. Campbellsville, no surprise. They're undefeated overall. They're undefeated in Mid-South play. Georgetown's 2-1. Not quite out of the picture, but they're not in the driver's seat. Lindsey Wilson, obviously with the loss to Campbellsville, has to have a lot of other things go the Blue Raiders' way to get the automatic qualifying bid. But Bethel and Campbellsville still in the driver's seat there. The Sooner Athletic Conference, it's likely, as we thought from early in the season, going to come down to OUAZ taking on Texas Wesleyan, and the numbers play that out. Could there be 2 from the Sooner Athletic Conference again this year? That one would be a tough one, but we're not writing it off just yet. Louisiana Christian at 4-1 right now still could sneak in there, but would have to have some things go their way. To the Sun Conference, and Kaiser obviously in the driver's seat. The Seahawks have never lost a Sun Conference game. Let's throw that up there again. Never lost a Sun Conference game. That's huge. So Southeastern and Weber International both with 1 loss in conference play. Okay. Well, what about St. Thomas? Well, what about Florida Memorial? They each have 1 loss in conference play already too. Yeah, but they haven't played Kaiser yet. Or excuse me. Yes, but they've already played Kaiser. And because of that, Kaiser has the upper hand on both of them. Southeastern and Weber International each still are yet to play Kaiser. And so trying to see if there's an opportunity to make something happen. If this is one big jumbled mess with 5 teams with, 2 losses or something like that, then it gets crazy. So, but Kaiser obviously with the inside track right there. So that is a look now at the players with the teams with the inside track for that conference or divisional automatic qualifying bid. 13 of those will be given out. That's not accurate. 13 of those will be earned, and 7 more at-large bids will be given out. All right, to the Bet the Barn segment, and let's go with this one as we bring up our barn. There we are. That's a happy little barn. That sure is. Just like the barn outside here. It's a carriage house. It's really a barn. But I needed to go on record as having said it's a carriage house. To the Bet the Barn segment. We've already talked about this one, so let's talk about this one. No, we'll bring it up at the end. How about here's one that's an over-under. All right, over-under. This is a big matchup. Campbellsville, undefeated on the season, on the road at Cumberland. Is there a letdown after the Lindsey Wilson game? So lots of folks in the chat tonight, and I hope everyone plays along on this one. So the over-under on this one. Both teams scored 34 in a win last week. Both teams won last week. Cumberland playing at home. Campbellsville having to cross state lines for this one, traveling to Cumberland to take the game. So this is Campbellsville If you want to put Campbellsville points over or under, here we go. So go ahead, please, and get on record with me tonight for this one. Campbellsville points over or under 64.5. And let's see who is in for this one. Lots of chat tonight. Guys, want to play along? If you're caught up to where we are, might be caught up. I don't know if Hinchman 21's listening. He's probably not even caught up to this point tonight. Campbellsville points over, under. We can go on record for that. And Dave says under on the Campbellsville points. Going under on that one. Robert says over on the Campbellsville points. Leo with Campbellsville points over, and Matt tying it up at 2 apiece. Campbellsville under. Thought this was a decent number, guys. And obviously we see on both sides, so it's getting some good action both sides. So, yeah, I think it's a decent number as well. Anyone else? And I will tell you what, I need to go ahead and post mine as well. So Campbellsville points, and I think Campbellsville is going to live up to it. I don't know if Cumberland is going to live up to it at home in this one. So I'm going to take the under on this one. And there we go. Is it out there? I want to go on record. There we are. Under. Taking the under. Oh, man, that's what Dave picked. All right, that's all right. Just kidding, Dave. I think you picked the right one there. Let's move on. Move on along, and we'll take that one off. All right, this one is a prop bet. So, Matt, here we go. We're putting Mayville State out there again, and it's all about the rushing yards here. So, Mayville State averages, let me get this number right here, 245.9 points a game, or that'd be a record, wouldn't it? Yards a game. 245.9 rushing yards a game. That's what Mayville State's putting up this year. Montana Tech gives up only 81.3 rushing yards a game. Something has to give. Higher rushing yards would favor Mayville State. Maybe not enough to win, but still would definitely put it in Mayville State's corner there. So Mayville State puts up more than 3 times as many rushing yards per game than Montana Tech gives up. Montana Tech gives up 81.3. The over-under here is, will Mayville State get at least double what Montana Tech is used to giving up? So that would be 162. That's the wrong thing. Anyway, all right. Take that one off. The over-under here is, will they give up more or less double what Montana Tech gives up? More or less yards. Let's go Mayville State. Over-under 162.6 yards, rushing yards a game. I'm laughing because I thought I had all the graphics right. So this one's tough. Just bear with me, guys. I promise the other two are right. So Mayville State, MSU, yards, more than double or less than double. There we go. And Dave says it's going to be less. We'll just go with whatever comments you guys can add. I'll piece them together later on. More or less than double. Matt says over. Over double. Matt says they're going to get more than 162.6 rushing yards in this game against Montana Tech. Leo says over. They're going to get more than 162.6 rushing yards per game. Robert says more. Over. They're going to get more than 162.6 rushing yards in this game. And I'm going to type in whatever needs to be said. MSU rushing yards. I say it's over. I'm going to say more than double. All right. Is it on there? There we go. Leo said more. That's fine. Robert says he refuses to be swayed. That's fair. We've added to the lexicon here. Very good. And I'm going to say more than double too. All right, last one. And I think everyone knows about this, and we're starting to wrap things up. We're about to hit the hour and a half mark, so we'll end it with this one. We talked about it earlier. That's a good question, Dave. It's a very good question. We're talking Frontier Conference stuff. Hinchman needs to be here for that. Last one here. Over under, Friends at Southwestern. This is the highest point total I believe we've given here, and I want to see if it gets action on this one. These two teams combined for 112 points per game on average. Will they score at least 79.5? Will it be over under 79.5 on this one? Do defenses kick in? Or do they just score until the cows come home? And what Cory said was if he was saying if Friends gets a lead, if Southwestern gets a lead, if Southwestern gets a lead, they are not going to take their foot off the gas at all, period. It's not going to happen. They saw what happened last year. If there's anything close to a lead, they're going to add to it. If Friends gets a lead, I would think the same thing. I don't think you take your foot off the gas at all. So just something to consider right there in that one. But is it going to be over under 79.5 points? Over under 79.5 points. So we go to Robert, who says, Friends, Southwestern points. He's going with the over. All right. Dave, under. Friends is going to play keep away. You know, that is something that wasn't mentioned earlier, and it crossed my mind. When he was talking about Friends Tom Bradying the ball and taking the air of the ball, you know, you run a play and a running game, that keeps that clock rolling all day long. Now, the flip side is Southwestern has a great passing game. It doesn't stop the clock every time a play is made, but they do have a good passing game, so that's there. Dave's taking the under. Leo is taking the over. And let's see. Matt, did I get yours in there? Matt, I think I got yours in there. Just to make sure everybody got theirs. All right. I'm going to go on in here too. I like Henchman 21. Oh my goodness. Boy, missed you. We missed you, my friend. We missed you. He's 7 minutes behind, but he's catching up. So he's got the over on Campbellsville. We're going to have to keep the program going long enough to let Henchman keep up. So I'm going to go ahead and say Friends, Southwestern College, points. I'm going to go with what I said earlier. I think if either team gets a lead, they're not going to back off. Not at all. I don't think there are too many points in this game. And I don't know. I kind of think 79.5 is a low number, but I thought, how in the world can I give a totals line above 80? I just don't know how that can happen. So there we go then. All right. Henchman's catching up, and Leo's glad. Henchman back in the building tonight. So that is wrapping things up. And a shout out to everyone really quickly. I mentioned, and I haven't seen this tonight, so we have one more subscriber. We know who that is. Mrs. H subscribed tonight. Let me, as Henchman is catching up just a little bit, let me say really quickly, we are at $24.93, which really is cool because the channel's grown, and so we're right now looking at $24.93. I think we get $2,500 before the day's over with. But I would say this also, you know, it's going to have to they'll pick up at a little quicker pace than that if we're going to get to 5K before the end of the year. But I think it's a neat goal, and for those of you who watch the channel, you know, it's one of those things. I actually prayed about it because I wanted it to have a goal that, you know, it's kind of one of those things that it would definitely be a God thing. So if it makes it, it's definitely a God thing there, and I think it'd be something cool to definitely consider. All right, so we could hit 5,000. By the way, lots of views. There have been lots and lots of views. We passed 700,000 views on the channel. I know we're going to hit 1 million before the year's over with as well, so that is neat. Henchman, we may have to catch up with you in the comments because we have talked for a long time and we're right at an hour and a half. So Henchman says Montana Tech at the under. Let's see if we can get his online and accounted for. Montana Tech under or less than. He says that the Diggers are going to keep Mayville State less than 162.6 yards per game. All right. He's catching up. That's all right. Anyone have anything else before we wrap things up then? Shout out. You started Leo, you started this channel. You watched this channel. Start watching this channel. in the playoffs last year. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I do remember your name coming up in the comments in the chat last year too. So I think that's one of those things. And the playoffs can bring more subscribers. And I think it's good. I like it too. I just, one of the things about this that when the season starts to wind down, then you get to miss it a little bit. And so I think we're probably going to try to do a football program if we can. We may try to do some kind of football program all year long. But Midwest Sportsnet, we cover volleyball, we cover basketball, baseball, softball, you name it. We cover all those things too. And we had in the works this spring and summer, we were looking to do, if not a weekly, then a bi-weekly volleyball show as well. And I think that's something that still could happen. It may be a year or two away now, because this show has seen the success it has. And so we're definitely sticking with this. So that is there. All right. Montana over, Friends over. So Hinchman, I hope I have you just as 3 of them there. So I don't know. He says Friends over. If you missed one or we missed one of yours, Hinchman, put it in the comment section. We'll go from there. Leo started watching the playoffs last year. I think it's cool, and I love that. And we are going to definitely keep going all the way through the playoffs and beyond. And like I mentioned, and I'll wrap this up by saying thank you to Cory Thorpe for being on the broadcast with us tonight. It's been so much fun to get to visit with him and with all the radio guys all year long. So we're looking forward to seeing who's going to get to come on with us this week. I thought I had someone earlier in the week, and that one hasn't panned out for me. So we'll see who we're going to get to talk to this week on Sunday night. Big matchup. We're going on the road. Next week, we'll be in Wichita, Kansas for Midwest Sports Saturday. That'll be an 11 or an 11:30 start time, and it's going to be out there. We're going to check out. We have not ever done a Midwest Sports Saturday that's really gotten in on a tailgate. And the last couple times that I was at a friend's game, they were saying you have to come to the tailgate next time. So we're going to see. We're going to see if we can get involved with the tailgate. All right. I think that's it. All right. Hinchman, his hair's on fire and the digs are on fire. And so there should be a big game. Leo, Matt, Hinchman, you guys are watching some big ones. And Robert and Lenny and Jeff and Dave, you guys have an incredible one on the docket as well. So much good football. Sunday night show could go an hour and a half too. Who knows? It'll be a lot of fun. We'll do that. We'll try to make it, Robert, I know you have Sunday night service, or do you have Sunday night service? I don't know if you have Sunday night or not, but I know Sunday's a great day. So we're cheering you on and what you do on Sundays as well. Hinchman, Matt, Leo, Dave, who else has been here? Robert, Lenny was on tonight. Appreciate that. Cory Thorpe on tonight. Appreciate that. And did I get everyone? Leo. Yeah, you're all there. Said Jeff. Jeff was there at the beginning. Jason. Hey, Jason, thank you very much for stopping by tonight. Appreciate you being in the chat. If you're still watching tonight, Jason, thank you for being a part of what's going on. Just be at home in the community. And we welcome that. No Sunday night service. All right, Robert. Well, then, let's talk some football on Sunday night. College football this week, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 Mountain Time, 6 if you're watching us in Redding, California, and we hope that you are, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So come on in. I know we're going to have a lot of good things to talk about. Some of you all will probably be sad from Saturday's game. I can't help that. But we'll talk about it anyway, and you know what? We'll just have some fun together, all right? All right. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hinchman, for being on the program tonight. I'm going to sign off online right now, so make sure it gets on there. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching. You all have a great night, and we will see you in at least or at most 72 hours. We will see you then. God bless you. Thanks a whole lot.